I'm gutted, everyone. I'm absolutely gutted. I'm actually recording this 2 hours after full time, and I don't really feel any better about it. I've spoken to people. I've spoken to my dad. I've read the timeline to see what people are saying about it. I've listened to some match reactions. I've spoken to people at TalkSport, and I'm trying to process this all because if you want my honest feeling is I'm gutted. I'm actually angry. I'm incredibly frustrated. I'm really wound up by some of the things we saw, by the result, by the manner of the defeat. But I don't think my frustration is at the same things that other people seem to be frustrated about. And I'm not sure that a lot of what I'm feeling is particularly justified. I think what I'm feeling is a petulance. I think I'm feeling like essentially, we've had it pretty much all our own way. The only time it hasn't really gone our way has been Sunderland and Chelsea away, in which ultimately they were all right points. And now we're in a situation where I'm feeling like all I've had is basically positives. Even the negatives, I spun a positive on them. And this is the first time we've really had to take our medicine. And so part of my anger and frustration is, like I said, a bit of a petulance. However, there were things in that performance that were very frustrating. And there were things that Arsenal need to learn from. And there are trends that are starting to concern me. So while I go into the ranting side of things and I go through the things I'm disappointed about, let me just caveat by saying all this. Man City have lost 4 games this season. They only recently, a week or two ago, lost away at Newcastle. Barcelona just got destroyed at Stamford Bridge 3-0. We made Bayern Munich look very average in that second half at the Emirates, beating them 3-1. PSG have been worked by Tottenham and haven't had every result go their way this season, losing at home to Bayern Munich. Real Madrid fans, from what I can see, aren't totally enamoured with what Xabi Alonso's doing. So, and let's not start on Liverpool and others. So as much as we are very disappointed to lose this game, it's our second defeat since, I think, the 31st of August, where we lost 1-0 at Liverpool. Both of them were by 1-goal margins, and both of them were by, were late goals, a great effort at Anfield or whatever. Essentially, you can see where I'm going with this message. While I am very, very disappointed, and I'm going to have a good old moan about some stuff, I do feel like we're still a very, very, very good side. And I think there are actually plenty of signs of that in the Villa game. I think you can play that game 10 times. And I actually think 3 of them end a draw, 4 of them Villa win, and another 3 would probably win. I think on another day, we probably did enough to have that second goal and then manage the game a little bit better like we have done in the past. But there is concerns about the way we're managing away games, and I want to touch on that. But all this to say, I still think we're a top side, and it doesn't really change how I feel about our team and our potential. But I'm going to rant about a few things. Firstly, and we'll do the match reaction and my kind of thoughts on key moments in a sec, but I want to get these kind of points at the front of my brain out. Firstly, it is a concern that we have lost at Anfield, that we have drawn at Sunderland, that we have drawn at Chelsea, and now we've gone and lost at Villa Park. There is a concern, especially that Sunderland, Chelsea, Villa run of 3 away games in a row. One was a last-minute equaliser from Sunderland in the 94th minute. One was against 10-man Chelsea, which we went behind to 10 men, and the other was a 95th minute winner for Aston Villa. While I'm happy to pick the positives in some of those other performances, and I've made those videos on the Goonerverse, that you start to see trends. And when you see trends, you've got to call them out. Now, I never really sat there and spoke about Arsenal's mentality because I felt we'd shown good mentality throughout most of this campaign. I am a little concerned now. And when we talk mentality, I don't mean mentality to go and lift the Champions League or the Premier League, because that's a double-edged sword. Arsenal will never prove that they've got the mentality to win these competitions until they've literally lifted it. So it's kind of a pointless conversation. But I think we can talk about mentality in terms of managing games. And I do think that away at Sunderland, what did we say? The crowd was loud, they were up for it, they got stuck into it. What do we say about Chelsea? The tifo, the fireworks, they were up for it, they got stuck into us. Same with Villa. I didn't have the pleasure of commentary, and I heard from my dad that through the TV, Villa Park was absolutely rocking. Cool. So we need to accept and remember that teams are going to treat us like their biggest game of the season, or one of. Why? Because we've been top of the league, because we've been the best team, because they have to bring their best to beat us. And with all those games, there was an opportunity for Sunderland, for Chelsea, for Villa to claw back points on us, making it an even bigger game for them because they'd all been in great form. Now, I am starting to worry about the way we're dealing with that. I want to talk about injuries in a sec, but we had Saliba and Gabriel at Sunderland. We were against 10 men away at Chelsea. I am concerned about how we're managing certain occasions because I see the football we want to play disrupted too much. I see the control that is so that's in the DNA of Arteta's Arsenal. Controlling games, keeping teams pinned away from our goal, denying them good opportunities. We are so hard to beat. And cool, even for all the chances Villa had today, it took them to the very, very last minute to beat us. We are hard to beat. But those trends are starting to slip away from home. Chelsea, I think, had a much more open game they'd have expected against us. Villa, for sure. And part of it is credit to the great work these teams are playing. But I am worried about the structural failures. And is that related to mentality? Because I don't think Arteta could be giving them different instructions. In particular games, up against teams who are super up for it away from home, I've seen our structure and the core things, the core principles of our football crumble a little too much in these last 3 away games. So I do have concerns there, and I want to say that. The other thing I want to really rant about is, and I'm sorry for people who go, you're just making excuses, sour grapes, all that, but it is the injuries front. People, I can't stress this enough. It's why I ranted on the Gabriel video when it was announced he got injured for Brazil, why I ranted on the Mascara video recently as well. Name me a Premier League side in the comment section below, and I promise you, I can name you 9, 10 of their best 11. I can tell you that when City first won the title, it was Zabaleta at right back with Company and Lescott. I think Clichy at left back, maybe Kolarov. But in midfield, Gareth Barry, Yaya Toure. You can remember these players, David Silva and Nasri as wide 10s tucking in, although I think they did that at the end of the season, with then Tevez coming and Aguero. That's when they put that run together. That is the City team you remember. You remember David Silva and De Bruyne in front of Fernandinho. You remember Liverpool of last season. You go back to Conte's team in 2017. You remember that it was Matic and Kante with Moses and Alonso as the wing-backs. 2 years earlier with Chelsea. Whatever team has won the title, you can remember their 11s. Why? Because 9 or 10 of them went out week in, week out. Arsenal went into this game once again with a brand new pairing. Timber and Nketiah starting a Premier League game for the first time together. Yes, they got about an hour together against Brentford, but starting once again together. And we are going weakened. We are going to one of the toughest grounds in their best patch of form of the season as a weakened side. And it is getting so frustrating because I know the potential of this team. I know the quality we've got. I know the difference we can make off the bench with options. But we are constantly going in with 2, 3, 4, 5 big names struck off. And normally, and what is a trend so far this season, it's happening in the same area of the pitch. So cool. Madueke, Gyökeres, Trossard, Martinez, they all came on today. They all came on where Marino, Saka and Eze started. That is great. Waneri didn't even come on. Sure, Dalman wasn't in the squad, nor was Jesus. Great, our attacking options have come back. I'm not too worried about the attacking football we're playing because we've gone to another really tricky ground where they're scoring goals, they're beating teams, and we haven't had not just Saliba and Gabriel, but and we've had to roll out a brand new partnership where you're hoping at least Mascara and Nketiah might be building something new together there too. It is getting so frustrating, and I'm so sorry, right? At the time of recording, I believe Man City are, 3-0 up against Sunderland. Cool, so they're going to win that. I'm so sorry. It is disappointing for the football we've played. At the end of today, they're 2 points behind us. But I also have to say that for the away games we've played and the amount of injuries we've had, I'm sort of just happy that we're even still top of the league because it's a joke how many injuries we're getting. And we have to look internally. I tweeted something, and if you know the answer to this, please go on X and reply to this tweet. I tweeted, let me find it. Is there anyone with some insight into sports injuries and physiotherapy and give some insight into whether Arsenal's injuries are more likely self-inflicted or just bad luck? I said, I don't think that's why we lost today. I'm going to talk about that. But it's a serious question. And I'm going to go through these replies. And if any of you know, please let me know. Because it can't be a coincidence. So we have to look internally at those injuries as well. Ultimately, if you want to win the league, you've got to have these partnerships and these players that you pit up against the best in the world. You've got to have them available to play. And when they're not, you're significantly weak inside. You just are. Now, while I've ranted about that, and that is going to sound like excuses. I get it. I like to think it's called reasons, but fine. You say what you want in the comments. Let me also say this. Structurally, we were appalling today. And I don't mean in terms of the press and in terms of some of the football we played. I think that was okay. I actually think on another day we might have got the second goal and maybe won the game. Not that I think we were that deserving of it, but whatever. I think there was plenty of positives in our performance. But structurally, we were so all over the place. They kept finding overloads in the wide areas, whether it be Rodgers, whether it be Watkins, whether it be whoever was playing on the right. I can't remember. McGinn, I think. Matty Cash for sure on that right-hand side. There were so many moments in which it felt like Villa in 2-3 passes could get beyond our back four and have us running backwards, and I never liked that. Timber and Cappier, for whatever mistakes they made today, and Cappier certainly at the end, they actually had to do a lot of individual defending, and I actually feel for them because as a brand new partnership thrust into this position, there wasn't a lot of help around them, I'll be honest. I also felt that the individual performances of our attackers were pretty appalling today. Bukayo Saka, fair play for making that second goal happen, and actually statistically put up some good numbers. He whipped some good balls into the box. I actually think he was growing into the game once he had his moment that led to our equaliser. But he was so disappointing today. Bar one dribble in the first half, he was so disappointing. And I do hold Saka a level above others because we put him up as one of the best right wingers in the league, in the world maybe. We talk about this guy as a superstar, as our franchise player. So him, William Saliba, Declan Rice, Gabriel, I hold to a different standard. And he was nowhere near the level we know he can be at. But he was far from the worst player because Mikel Merino, it was a disaster class today. An absolute disaster from Merino. Now again, I sort of sympathise because he's not a striker, he's doing a job up there. But when I said on Loose Cannons more recently, let's not get too giddy about Merino scoring goals because the team doesn't function that great with him up front, I felt like I was being too harsh, but I think today was evidence of that. Eze, whose future I think is on the left in this Arsenal team, was so disappointing. But maybe he's just played too much football. But how often can we talk about tiredness and fatigue, right? I see these players going down injured and I sympathise. But then I think, hold on. Every team is playing all these games. There are so many players that are going out week in, week out. Why are we talking about fatigue and injury so much? Are we just looking too much for excuses? But on the injuries front, I sympathise. On the fatigue front, I don't know. But maybe they're hand in hand. You have too many injuries, you can't rotate them, so fatigue kicks in. Maybe that's what it is. And you saw Pep Guardiola try to rotate for Man City, made 10 changes. You recognise fatigue. And they go and lose 2-0 to Leverkusen. So it's a really tough one to judge that. So let's bring the thoughts back a little bit. Individually, we weren't good enough. Our defending the second half was appalling. I felt we were just all over the place. And again, it reminded me of the defending at Old Trafford. Individuals just trying to pull us through. There's another game recently where I felt that, but I can't really remember. The goals, Eze falls asleep at the back post, but also why we're not pressing onto Pau Torres. It wouldn't surprise me if Arteta made the changes simply for that. And then the second goal in Cappier for me, I know it's late in the game, but for me, just keep your head, take a touch, boot it down the line. He overplays a little bit. It's a heavy touch. He doesn't mean it. Bodies in the way, just throwing themselves. Everyone tried to keep that away from, being what it was, but ultimately Villa probably deserved it. Marlon had a shot go wide. Watkins had another shot saved by David Raya. Raya was worked far too much. There's a ball into the box that Timber put into the back of his own net. It was, we were hanging on there at times. And I felt that there were moments in that second half where we pulled back momentum. There were moments where I thought, wow, Ødegaard is pulling the strings. Some of the football here is brilliant. There were moments where Arsenal showed their class and quality because we've raised our floor. I genuinely believe that. However, we were far too structurally all over the place at the back. But again, how much is that because of the absence of Saliba and Gabriel? And when you pull those players apart, when you have injuries, they're not able to make substitutions, maybe that it has all played a part. But then why is Norgard not coming on? Zubimendi and Rice have barely got a rest in the last few weeks. Have played huge games. Maybe we should have trusted Norgard a little bit more and brought him on at times. Other than that, though, I can't say that Arteta did anything wrong for me. He brought on the subs I wanted in Trossard and Gyökeres. He did it at half-time, which is what I wanted to. And largely Arsenal got control of that after. Why could the players not keep control of that? Is it instruction? Is it mentality? Is it fatigue? I don't know. So look, I actually don't know how long I've ranted for. That might be a 15-minute rant. I genuinely don't know. I'm looking at my computer here. I don't know how long I've been going on for. I I feel so frustrated because it's always going to, right, when you lose in the 95th minute to a team third in the table, to Unai Emery, to Emiliano Martinez. When those things happen, you're going to feel very frustrated. But I also feel that the ideas weren't so bad from Arsenal, and we weren't terrible. We're still a very good team, but there are some concerning trends, which I think I've tried to explain there. All in all, we go again. We try and bounce back. I don't know. I don't know. You almost have to. On TalkSport, they asked me, Sam Ellard, who's a brilliant host, he said, what do Arsenal need to do now off the back of this result? And I said, you almost need to kind of pretend it didn't happen, kind of shrug it off, and just like go, whatever, cool. At the end of this weekend, we're still 2 points ahead of Man City, 3 ahead of Villa. It's become a real title race now. We've not pulled away in the way we'd have hoped or wanted to. I never thought that was going to happen, by the way. We now have to just go, all right, are you back fit and ready to help? Are you back fit, ready to help? Can we get the gang together? Lock in, let's go, big December. And then you rotate in some of those Champions League games, and you rotate in the FA Cup when that comes around. And the Carabao Cup, as much as I think we need silverware, I genuinely think that. I think we're going to have to chance it and rotate in that competition. We're just going to have to, especially because of the injuries we've had. I don't really know what more to say. Well done to Villa, who my analysis of them is the first half, I actually think we did a pretty good job. I know they got a lot of credit for that first half. I thought the second half they were very, very good, and fair play to them. And they deserved the win in the end, so not really a lot we can say there. Were Arsenal as bad as probably the timeline's making out and the hysteria suggests? No, I don't think we were that bad. I think that we could have been worthy of a draw, but ultimately when you allow Villa that many openings on your goal, that many shots, that many nearly moments, you've got to just sit there and go, what did you think was going to come, Arsenal? What do you think was going to happen? You're just maybe unlucky it happened so late in the day, but it was coming at some point. Villa were worthy of a second goal in that game. Were we? Maybe, but I don't know. Things I liked, things I didn't. All right, I'll leave it there. I've been waffling on. I'm so tired. My head is fried. I'll catch you in a bit.